all. It's nice to get together, huh? It's hard to stop visiting because we don't have the chance that often. So it's special to come together and visit and see friends we haven't seen in a while. Speaking of not having done this in a while, when I had my first conversation with the president, it was maybe 2 weeks after I started, I think, because I think it was before Thanksgiving, I believe, in November. So, whew, time has flown, hasn't it? Here we are, almost ready for spring, even though as we were chatting in advance, it doesn't feel like it. Doesn't. I guess it's a Santa Fe spring, maybe, no? With the wind and the nippiness. Yes, spring forward this weekend. We lose an hour, but we'll get it back in the fall, so don't worry about it. And we'll have more sunlight now. Beautiful sunshine, New Mexico sunshine, beautiful. And you know, I grew up in El Paso, so we're cousins. I mean, you know. Okay, to begin with today, what I wanted to cover was just a few highlights from the report that I gave, the President's report that I gave to the Governing Board last week. And I'm not going to cover the whole thing. It's 6 pages because we were so busy and accomplished so much in the month of February. But if you want to see the full report, you can go onto the Governing Board's website and look there, and then you can see the full report. But I'm just going to cover a few things because there was, I mean, all of you are outstanding in terms of contributing in so many ways to Santa Fe Community College. So, you know, it's like we need to shine. You know, it's important that we shine and toot our horn. So, of course, we had that outstanding 1 month ago today bond election that passed by a 77% plurality. It was outstanding. You know, a lot of it had to do with all of you voting, and particularly voting early, and getting your family and friends to vote. You know, I loved the stories that I heard, you know, about your family members voting and getting online and getting their friends to vote. And, you know, just a lot of effort there. And, you know, the early voting made a huge difference. We had over 2,000 early voters prior to the February 6th. So, I mean, we already had it in the bag then, but we didn't know that, and we weren't going to take any chances. And, of course, today is election day for the city, and you all saw the people on the street corners with their signs and getting out the vote. So we can breathe easy because we were there a month ago. So just everybody, you know, everybody chipped in, and it was outstanding. And of course, the winners are going to be our students in the college by getting the $17 million in bonds that will be sold beginning in July, I guess. We're going to sell them. And, you know, I'll go into that a little bit more into the presentation. But I definitely wanted to talk about, you know, all the support. We had so much positive press. I don't know if you noticed in the newspaper, you know, the opinion and people that wrote the editor, and, you know, including our faculty union president, as well as our city historian, Dr. Lovato, who wasn't, I don't think, the historian yet, but nevertheless, he wrote a, you know, outstanding piece in support of the college and his experiences. He made it very personal. So that was that. We also launched in February the Fab Lab. It's over in the Advanced Trades and Technology Center, and it's providing us with opportunities to train in advanced technology fields. And, you know, we're even partnering with MIT for some of that. And, you know, we are also partnering with a lot of other Fab Labs. Well, there's one in Santa Fe, and there was a individual who is contributing to that who was able to raise $10,000 to benefit an entrepreneur. So that was a neat event. Let's see, I also, today, where's Rebecca? There you are. We signed our 20th high school partnership today. And that continues to grow. That office and partnerships continue to grow, and the connection with the Santa Fe Public Schools. I met with the superintendent, Dr. Veronica Garcia, last week, and we're excited to work together to ensure that the Santa Fe Public School students continue on at Santa Fe Community College. I don't see him here, but we were proud that Dr. Steve Martinez hosted screenings of a documentary in the making about New Mexico's role in the Battle of Glorieta during the Civil War. So that was cool. He also headed up the efforts towards, was part of the Black History Month celebration with others here at the college that participated. So we had Black History Month recognition and celebration. So just this past weekend, we had a great event with our culinary arts program, the Chaîne de Rôtisseurs, which is Chaîne de Rôtisseurs is from the 1200s, a gastronomic society of not just chefs, but people that love to eat and love to have wine and other beverages. And it started in France, and so it's very interesting. I didn't know anything about it, and not many of us didn't, but they connected with our chef Pat and chef Jerry, and over a year and a half ago when Randy was still here, and asked, if we could host the Far West Young Chefs competition here at our Culinary Arts Lab. So we did, and we had young chefs from, so the Far West includes Southern California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. So we had young chefs competing on Saturday in our Culinary Arts Lab, and they competed in savory and in pastry categories. So the winner of the Somebody's excited? Okay, I'm excited. No, that was great. The winner of the savory category is our graduate, Kyle Pacheco. Yeah, so great. Oh, his parents were beaming, and one of his twin brothers, Shane, who also is a student here. They love our school. People say that when Kyle first started, he was so shy he could hardly speak in public. Well, they had before they announced the winners, they had an opportunity for some of the competitors to get up and tell a little about themselves. Kyle was the best speaker, the best. He talked about his background as a Native American, how he was so proud, but that it was a challenge, to do what he had to do at home on the farm, and then also keep up with his studies. He's also employed by the Santa Fe Cooking School, and there were some people there from the Santa Fe Cooking School cheering him on. So because he won the Far West region, he is now going to go to the Nationals in Charleston. Yeah, Charleston, South Carolina. And the Shen chefs, because there are a lot of chefs in the Shen group, they're going to work with him to help prepare him to be more competitive and to learn how to compete at that level. And then the other young man who also won, it happened to be a young man, there were women competing also, but the sweet or pastry category was a gentleman named David, and was it Pacheco? Flores, David Flores from Tucson, Arizona. So the two of them were the ones representing the Far West region going in May to Charleston. And the winner of the national goes either to, I don't know, Paris, Dubai, or something exotic like that. Taiwan. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure where. So we're going to be cheering Kyle on, and we'll let you know what we might be able. Maybe we can do a send-off for him or something. That would be kind of cool. He's just beaming, and his parents, and they love us for helping to prepare him, but of course the parents did a lot too, and the family's love and support. So that I have to tell you, because that just happened Saturday. And then our culinary kitchen was inaugurated into the Shen Society, and we had a ribbon cutting, and it's quite impressive. It's very impressive and very exciting. And they raised close to $10,000 and probably more for scholarships that evening. So that's another huge success. So that was something I wanted you to know about. Oh, not all of you might know that the Associate VP for Student Success and the Registrar have initiated a program to print diplomas on demand but students have to earn them. They just can't go and say, give me a diploma. And this will allow the registrar's office to print diplomas on parchment paper, and parchment-like paper with beautiful and professional design and appropriate degrees and signatures. So it'll make it easier and less expensive for students to be able to get copies of their diplomas. So that is cool. And what else do we have here? Oh, it's not too late. Well, first, before that, we're having the Gerald Clay basketball tournament on April 6th and 7th. So 1 month out. So be sure and talk to Sandy if you're going to volunteer. Yes, and I'm already signed up. So I will be there. And then another neat thing going on is if you haven't gotten over to the Visual Arts Gallery, the exhibit that is there now goes until the 11th of April, and it's magnificent. It's wood carvings, and they're from the Taos Santero family, Patricio Varela and Salazar, and it's magnificent. They had their grand opening about a month ago, more or less, but it's still there, and worth it. It's beautiful, beautiful, unique, and special. Speaking of art, on the, what's the date? 20th of April, we'll be having at the Capitol in the East Gallery, we're going to have our art faculty's art exhibit. There's only 2 art exhibits every year in the Capitol, and we were selected, our faculty's art was selected to be one of them. So on April 20th is the reception, the grand opening reception, but it will be there, how long? Till August? Till August 10th if you don't make it to the reception. They were actually here from the art gallery deciding what was going to be put in the exhibit, and Friday, so I got to go and get a sneak peek. It was lovely, just all forms of art, beautiful. So the last thing that I think I'll bring up, again, there were 6 pages, I just thought I'd highlight a few, is that we are hosting the Century Bike event here at Santa Fe Community College, and it will be on May 19th and 20th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. Well, Saturday they're going to have registration. It's going to be outdoors in one of our parking areas that they're going to set up shop. And I believe we'll get out the information, but I believe anybody that's a faculty or staff member gets a discount in registration and being part. They're going to have, it's 100 miles, but they also have a 50-mile race, and I believe they have a 25-mile race. So some of you may want to go on one of those if you're interested. I know we have quite a few faculty and staff that participate in that Century. And we are getting some money from each of the registrants that goes towards scholarships. But so that is great, and that'll be a lot of fun, and they're very excited to be a permanent partner with us in having the Century every year. They moved it after several years out at Christus, I think, at the house. Yes. And thank you all for participating in the forum for the Executive Director of Human Resources, and I've gotten just about all of the feedback, and I'm checking references right now. That's where it is. So we hope to be able to finalize things soon, if everything goes smoothly. Last thing, just a reminder that on the 16th of March, which is the Friday before spring break, we are going to have Professional Development Day, and in the morning we'll have our lockdown drill. Has everyone already received the overview of it that was going to be sent out? Do you know if it's gone out yet, Todd? The directions, etc. Oh, okay. You'll have them soon? Oh, okay. Well, okay, you'll be getting some instructions, kind of an overview of how to prepare yourself for the lockdown in the morning. And then in the afternoon, you'll have a schedule of all the different topics that are available for you to attend in the afternoon. And then after that, it's spring break. So there we are. We'll have a good training day. And everything will be closed on campus. The food we're bringing in so that our our staff in the cafeteria, et cetera, can also participate in the bookstore And so everybody will be participating, and that way we can just, because they always are cooking in there, right? They never get a break, so they can be part of the action. So that is the report, little highlights of the report. I mean, you can just see it was a full month in February, and here we are on March 6th. And also, I know what I was going to mention. Two additional things that just came up. You've heard me talk about how valuable it is if all of us had name badges so that we could better represent the college and make ourselves available to offer services and support and help to our visitors and students. And so we are very close to ordering the badges, and they're going to have our name, our first and last name, and the logo. We're not going to have departments because sometimes people move around, and sometimes people move around in positions, so it's just going to have our name, our first and last name, and our logo. And let's see, the other thing I wanted to mention is that we submitted a proposal to Lannell Foundation, and they have been big supporters of the college. This funding that we're hoping to receive, and we should hear by the end of the week, would provide us with funds in order to provide our students internships, paid internships in businesses, and we're going to identify those businesses because we want those businesses to offer our students jobs once the internships are over. But the paid internship will be another support mechanism and motivation to ensure that students stay in school so that they see that, by getting the education here, it'll lead to jobs, it'll lead to internships and then jobs. So we're waiting to hear on that. So I think those are and last thing related, had a great meeting with student services staff yesterday and representative from the Department of Workforce Connections. And we're going to explore the possibility of expanding services for the unemployed and the underemployed by maybe having, this is very early, but I want to mention it to you because I'm going to be meeting with the gentleman in charge of the Northern New Mexico Workforce Board and see about that center or that agency opening a satellite location here on campus so that the individuals that use their services can also learn about our certificates and degree programs that can also help them to get jobs. So just another connection, with new community members coming onto campus and learning about our outstanding programs and services. Yes? You mean in terms of TED? The gentleman? Yes. Who are you again? I'm sorry. Okay. Fabulous. Right. We want to be able to get more of their clients to come onto campus. So if we were to be established as an official satellite, that would open the door to more people, a new audience coming onto campus. So that's what we'd like to see, and there's interest, but I haven't met with the main gentleman yet. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next part of the presentation is going to be over here on PowerPoint, and as you know, we're beginning to develop our budget for the next fiscal year. So I just wanted to give you an overview of that process and related information. Okay, I need you because there's no light here. When you were here, it lit up, but now it's dark. Oh, I did that. He's got a harder. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm sorry. So we're looking at the different budget availability that we have, and given our successful bond election, we do have access to more funds than we have in the past. So our base budget it comes from a variety of places, but the state of New Mexico in 2011 indicated that we needed to be funded based on our performance related to the number of degrees and certificates that we awarded. So you can see that our production or granting of degrees and certificates has really gone up since 2011. The darker color is certificates and the lighter is the degrees. So we've really risen to the occasion and helped our students receive those two kinds of awards. So because of that, we have received on the second line $295,000 as long as the governor signs it for FY more than what we got for our FY18 appropriation. That's directly related to generating more awards, more certificates and degrees. So the total, though, right above it on the first line, budget for FY19 coming from the state is $9,477,900. $295,000 of that is the performance-based. And it's due again to Santa Fe Community College's success in increasing the number of awards. And that money, that additional money of close to $300,000 will be available in July of 2018 in the new fiscal year. So this shows the funding that we've received from the state for general instruction and general funding. In 14-15, you see $9,700,000, went up the next year to $9,800,000, and then the fiscal difficulties began. And we dropped way down to $9,200,000 in 16-17. This year, we went down some more to $9,182,000, but we're looking, things are better. We're going up to $9,477,000. So, if things had been better in the state's economy, we foresee that we would have kept going up, and increasing our ING funding, but that wasn't the case, because of the state's economic situation. So this topic is on salary increase for compensation and benefits. So I know that we have not at Santa Fe Community College gotten compensation increases for probably 4 years. It's been a long time. So House Bill 2 has an extra $148,416 appropriated to Santa Fe Community College for a 2%, which is actually a 1.6% salary increase for compensation and benefits. So an explanation for that is the context one, even though the state has labeled it as 2%, it is actually only a 1.6% of the FY18 ING appropriation. Because it isn't all of our employees, it's just part of the employees that come into that category. The second context is that the ING funding we receive from the state, total funding, makes up only 28% of our revenue. The rest of the revenue comes in from our property tax revenue. So in terms of getting that 28%, it's all subject to the governor's signature, which is due by tomorrow. So let's hope that she signs it and doesn't veto it like she did last year. Therefore, in order to give everybody a 2% increase, we will need to find additional funds to truly make it a 2% increase. And that is my priority this year, is to give our faculty and staff a 2% compensation increase, but we have to come up with additional funds because what the state gave us isn't enough. And then the governing board, of course, has to approve it also. So these appropriations that we've reviewed are going to be available in July of 18. So the difference, if we're going to fund a 2% increase, compensation increase, that is just over $578,000. Again, earlier I told you we had $148,000 that the state gave us, so we have to make up the difference with $429,771 more dollars that is needed. And we're working on it. Nick is still, tabulating everything, but that's the direction we're heading. So this is another source of revenue, the local mill levy operating revenue. Preliminary calculations estimate that $1,800,000 of additional operating revenue will be generated from this change because of the bond election, okay? So we're going to get $1,800,000. This new cash from this change should be used to restoring our cash reserves, because we've been so low in our cash reserves that we don't have enough revenue available should we have some kind of emergency to pay everybody's salary. So every payroll for the college is approximately 1.3 million. We should have at least 6 payrolls in reserve in case there's an emergency. So the new revenue, the $1.8 million of additional operating, is going to be available sometime in November of 2018, which will be after the Valley of Death, when our revenue drops. So it's not coming in till right after that. So this is going to be another challenging fall semester, or fall few months, till that 1.8 million kicks in that's going into the cash reserves to give us some support there. So this just shows the cash flow, and how low in November it goes. The lowest little, I knew I was going to do the wrong one. Yeah. So this is the lowest time in our funding, because we haven't gotten more property tax, and we've used what we've had available. And that's what Nick and others call the Valley of Death, how it goes down. And then it comes back up in January when we get more property tax. So again, this is just another look at our reserve and how we need to, it would be ideal if we could build up to $7,800,000 to get us through the valley, so we won't have a Valley of Death anymore once we start saving more of our money that we get in from our mill levy restructuring after the bond election. So taking a look at the 2 sources of funds, our bond money and our operating funding that comes in from the state. And the 2 funding sources cannot mix. It would be really neat if we could use some of the bond money for operating, but we can't. They have very designated uses. For bonds, we can only use them for facility and equipment, and it's restricted by the stated purpose, and they cannot be used for salary or compensation. It's a big, huge no-no. Operating dollars can be used for salary, compensation, supplies and expenses, and everything else. So here are the overview of the bonds. We have different kinds of bonds that we're going to get. We're going to get some severance tax bonds from the state. We're going to get $150,000 to go toward the greenhouse, $50,000 for the Health and Sciences Simulation Lab for simulation mannequins, $25,000 for student safety cell phone signal amplification capital upgrades, and this money will be available in July 2018 and can only be used for capital projects. So this is a direct result of our local delegation of legislators that got behind us, who support us, who know the good that we do, who know that our mission is critical for serving the community. So they are the ones that delivered this money from severance tax bonds that will be available in July of 18. So then the general obligation bonds from the state. And this is a surprise. We only expected about $2 million, but we're going to get a total of $5 million. $2 million for campus-wide infrastructure improvements, equipment, parking lots, roofs. $3 million for the Trades and Advanced Technology Center and other campus-wide infrastructure improvements. These funds should be available to our college in July of 2019. As I said earlier, this was a surprise. We only expected $2 million, but what ended up happening is because the legislators saw that we were successful in our bond election, they wanted to give us more money to leverage that $17 million. So therefore we got the $5 million. So that's going to help our bond capital money go even farther, and get more projects taken care of. So we're thrilled that this came. It was a surprise when I opened it up and I called Nick and we were jumping up and down, so happy, Henry, everybody, to see that extra $5 million. So then here is information about the local general obligation bond that we just passed a month ago. We're getting $17 million of local bonds that were authorized in February of this year, And the way we're going to spend that money is that we're going to first sell $10 million in June of 2018 for projects to be completed by the end of 2019. And that's going to fund the automotive facility, the fitness center, and Wi-Fi improvements, which I know the students were really asking us to address Wi-Fi. And not just the students, faculty also, who make use of Wi-Fi for instructional purposes. The remaining $7 million, so it's just too much to sell all $17 million at once because it's just a huge amount and too many projects to do successfully, to complete successfully. So the remaining $7 million is scheduled to be sold in 2020 for projects to be completed in 2022 for more classroom improvements and infrastructure improvements. So that's the plan. And remember, this cannot be used for salaries and operating expenses. So a summary, this just gives you a timeline summary that in June we'll get the first phase of local tax bonds of $10 million. In July of 18, we'll get the severance tax bond of $225,000. July of 19, a year later, we'll get the general obligation bond of $5 million that was a surprise from the legislators. And in 2020, we'll sell the second phase of our local local bonds for $7 million. Then in terms of operating dollars, in July of 18, pending approval tomorrow from Governor Martinez, we'll be getting the performance funding of $295,100, the 1.6 salary and compensation of $148,416, and then in November, the local mill levy, because we restructured our finances, will kick in and we'll get this $1,800,000 that will go into cash reserve. So this just shows you a snapshot of our funding and the recent outcomes from local and legislative financing to the college this year. The total is $24,468,000. That's a lot of money. And we're thrilled to get it. And again, we have each of these pots of money has designated expenditure, it has the ability for certain expenditures. And so the $22,225,000 is for capital projects. That's the largest part of the circle. The smallest is the $148,416,000 for 1.6% of salary and compensation. The other small one is $295,000 for performance funding, and I think that's then the $1,800,000 that's the local mill levy estimate that has to go into our capital reserve for rainy days. That's the end of the slideshow, but questions. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. As I said, we are working on the budgeting process because we're diligent in coming up with the remainder of the money for compensation increases, but you saw we have some to make up, but that's where Nick and Amy and others are looking throughout, the different amounts of money that are coming in. And is there anything you want to add to that, Nick, in terms of?
Just one thing. We have in the past couple of years, we've had the process under the College Policy 1-31 to establish all of the teams to review the budget recommendations. And so those teams are going to be getting formed very soon, and I believe that they're going to be scheduled to meet at the end of this month. And so if you're interested, please participate in the Financial Oversight Committee meetings. We're going to be submitting some names to the president and forming those teams. There'll be a team for revenue, expenses, non-IAG, plant fund, and then the overall kind of budget review team. So that's really the only thing in addition to that.
Any other questions that you have? Okay, Jeremy.
here on campus, we do not get cell phone signal, and that is a safety hazard as way we see it. Kids wanting to text or reach out to the students and inform them of an emergency. And so that project, those fundings are to initiate the infrastructure to boost and amplify cell phone signal here at SFCC.
Other questions? Yes,
Dr. Cervantes,
yes.
what kinds of new revenue ideas or thoughts in the last few years? I'm interested in hearing anything new that could drive revenue on this campus.
Can I, before I answer that, there was something that I forgot that I want to mention first, and then I can get to your question. In order to make budget decisions, we are using some guiding principles or criteria, and the top criteria or the top priority is compensation. You know, I really want to do everything I can based on availability of funds to fund a 2% compensation across the board. Now, some individuals are under specialized funding sources, and so their funding sources will need to generate that money, but I think it's available from what we can tell, so that everybody can get that. Second is health and safety concerns, improvements that address the health and safety of our faculty, students, and staff. So that's the second priority. The third priority is student success. That is in our strategic plan. We want our students to continue to be successful and obtain their degrees and certificates, because that's why they're here. So we want to support that effort. Fourth, if there's any accreditation requirements that we must address, then that would be the fourth priority. What's the fifth one? I know do you remember what the fifth one is? Oh, well, yeah, the cash balance. That maybe was up at the top, that we need to put money into our cash reserve. Okay, then your question regarding, you know, what new sources of revenue might we be pursuing, you know, in order to help the college. One thing that I want to say is that as we've reviewed the budgets, we've seen that the continuing ed offerings have increased in terms of more students taking continuing ed and that revenue going up. You know, so that has been a positive. And I mean, that just, I think, points to that people are lifelong learners, whether they take credit classes or continuing ed classes. So maybe some more of that. Now, you know, I see that providing better access to students in our community who might not otherwise come here because they don't know what we offer or they don't think we offer something for them is a source of revenue. Now, I know that our funding from the state doesn't come based on us having, you know, what they used to call butts in seats. It's really more based on the performance. But if we're meeting our mission and we're providing access to the community, you know, then we have more students coming and taking advantage of the programs and services and succeeding and obtaining their degrees and certificates. So to me, that's a top priority. And, you know, continuing with our retention efforts. I know we're on the right track, but we know that we can do better with males, particularly Hispanic males. And oftentimes they're seen as a breadwinner. And so oftentimes they do drop out of whether it's not continuing into higher ed or the like. And so the idea of the paid internships is one motivation to keep them in school, because they have to be, in order to access the paid internships, they have to be in a certificate or degree program. Preferably a certificate, because those short-term goals, students are more empowered, I think, if they can reach a goal within a year rather than looking at the 2-year, immediately. That can come later. So those are some of the new activities that we want to be able to offer. I wonder if there's any others that any of the team members, certainly the dual credit, although that doesn't bring in the money we want, not at the level where students are taking dual credit, but if they continue on, to college and take classes once they graduate from high school, and we would like to increase that number of students coming into the college. The other thing I was going to say, if we're successful and get the one-stop Workforce Connection Center, that is going to provide access to other members of the community that may not have come here in the past. You know, I just really am committed to providing that access and having this, and we have the support services, but Workforce Connections would offer more services also. Yes.
So if our community is in dire straits, and I'm in dire straits in terms of facilities for sports and those kind of things, wouldn't it behoove us to look at our facilities that are back there sitting in the dust bowl and utilize them? We have to invest, maybe whether we have to write grants or pool resources. We've got some of the most beautiful views on that east side, that we have a baseball field, a multi-purpose grass field, and I'm not going to even dive into what used to be the track, but you've got some facilities back there. I was wondering, why aren't we using those to generate resources?
Well, you know, that did come up once before, but I had not really explored it. But, you know, we could explore it. It sounds like you might be on that committee to help us explore. I mean, it would be,
I'm game for
it's
it
just,
because
I would be
it's
very,
reality.
I would be very cautious because, you know, I wouldn't want to use these resources that we need, you know, for our credit programs for that. But if we could possibly interest an investor to go in with us, I mean, we'd have to explore all that and get that so that it works with state, you know, rules and regulations. But why not? Why not? Yes.
Just curious if the city has contacted us, or are we part of in conversation about the old campus at San Fe University of Arts and Design? I know they're talking about having different kinds of possibilities. They sent out a survey.
Yeah, I wonder if they're done with the survey. They're not done yet.
No,
They're not done.
So we have been spoken to. They brought us in initially when they were playing around with the idea of leaving it as a higher ed. And when Raffles was still at the table, they brought us in. They have since brought us in periodically just to have sort of small conversations. But now that they're on this pathway, which is having the surveys, they did some small focus groups, they did some web meetings as well. They want to gather all that information. They're also waiting for the mayoral election that finishes today, and then of course the election from the the various districts. And once they get that new leadership in, they're going to take all that. What we've been told is they're taking all that information and they're going to see what the community wants, because they've used everything from higher education to, you know, affordable housing. So I think they want to see what they feel like the will of the community is, and then they'll bring us back if they feel like it's appropriate. That was the last thing we heard from the two city councilors, one of which was up for election, who were in charge of that process.
Any other questions from the floor? I have some questions that were sent in that I can address, bless you. But I want to make sure that there's no other questions that some of you who are here have before I go to these. Okay. So there was a question that came in regarding, was it possible to have a stairwell rail installed at the stairway off the main hallway? Excuse me. There is a fence rail, but this is the one stairway where there isn't another railing. And some people need to hold on to both when they're going up and down the stairs. So I talked to Henry about it, and they're going to look into this and see about installing a second railway, as long as there's not a structural issue.
We should be able to review the request, and it appears to be pretty straightforward, as long as there's no structural distance from the wall we have to what that's for, really, it should be pretty straightforward.
So, let me see, I have a bunch of other questions here. There was one that had to do, let me open this up. Had to do with, well, what happens if faculty decertify the SFCC AAUP, the union? Could we return to the previous work environment prior to the union? So my answer to that is I cannot provide an answer to this question, as the college and SFCC AAUP are engaged in collective bargaining. negotiations, and any such communication could be determined to violate the terms of the Santa Fe Community College Labor Management Relations Resolution. Thus, any questions related to the relationship between the college and the union should be addressed to the Santa Fe Community College Labor Relations Board. And they happen to be meeting this Friday at 9? I believe it's at 9 o'clock in the President's Conference Room. So if anybody has this question and wants to ask them, I mean, it's appropriate that you ask the Labor Management Relations Board. So, okay. So there were some questions about specific program budgets and changes from 2001 that were spent on those programs and changes in the budget. So the question started like with the year 2001, and Nick did some research on it, and they don't have the budget has been folded in, I guess, since that time, so they don't have specifics on 2001 for him to answer right away. I mean, he'd have to do a lot more research, but he has, those of you that asked the questions, and many of these were in the fine art area, he can answer them. I'd rather than answering it to everyone, if you go to Nick, he's got the response, and he can answer that question for you in terms of more recent data, right? The last like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, the big challenge on the question, not to go into too many of the details, but if you look back into past years, before about 3 years ago, the college had a certain chart of accounts that was structured in terms of keeping track of budgets and financials. Over the last 3 years, we've done a lot to reorganize that, so it's not so much apples to apples if you compare them, so it's going to take a lot more time to look into it.
But he's got some review of budgets from the last 3 or 4 years that you'd be happy to meet with you on. So I asked those individuals to talk to Nick, and he'll answer your questions specifically for the last few years. So is there anybody here from security? There was a question about security, and now I can't find it. Oh, no, that's, okay, that's Nick's. Here, no. Oh, I don't know what I did with it now. Oh, it's over here. Chris isn't here, I guess. Chris Gettler, right? Or anybody from security?
Yeah,
Oh, he's out sick today. Well, the question had to do, you know, because our drill on the 16th is a lockdown drill. It's not an active shooter drill, correct? They're different. And so the question was, you know, having an unarmed security guard, how will they respond to an active shooter? And I can't answer that question because I'm not a security officer. So we're going to have to ask him and then get back to you on this question. And what good does role-playing do in an active shooter drill when you're, I can't, and there was a word here that I don't know what it is, and they didn't either. So I'm sorry, I can't answer this because it wasn't clear. But we're not doing an active shooter drill this time. The idea is that we'll do the lockdown drill. And there's going to be a variety of directions and suggestions that you can practice, and also getting that exposure. And then we'll have some, not only will you be giving, as I said earlier, a preparation sheet with directions and ideas for how, so you can be prepared and know what to expect, but then you'll be given more directions in the morning, right after breakfast, in the campus center, and then then we'll have the drill, and then after the drill, I guess the other thing I wanted to mention is we have a CERT team, emergency response team, and they will be assisting as will law enforcement during the lockdown drill. So then they'll be checking to see how it's going and taking notes and then giving feedback at the end. And then we'll have lunch, and then we'll go to the afternoon sessions.
Yeah, and then there'll be a separate emergency response activity.
Yeah, a separate, the fire department, and I don't know if another agency is going to.
Other organizations, but it would be a separate emergency exercise.
Right. Okay. So then there was a question, whether before Randy left, if he gave his top people raises. He did not. That is not true. That is a myth. That did not occur. So anyway, just answering that very short and sweet, that is a myth. That is not true. No last-minute parting shot raises were given to either him or the staff, or me. So anyway. Let's see. So the next group of questions here has to do with what's going to happen to the Visual Arts Gallery, since we're closing the gallery management program due to lack of enrollment and very small numbers. And we are going to continue with the Visual Arts Gallery. It will continue to be a valuable resource to the college, to our students, to our faculty. We are right now working on a plan in terms of how it's going to be able to continue to be used in the same manner that it's being used now. I met with the art faculty yesterday for a preliminary discussion, and we're going to have more. But it is not going to close down. We're not going to board it up. It's not true. We're going to continue to use it. It's a fine gallery, valuable resource, provides a wonderful place for our faculty to show their art, for the community, and our students, because it's really a place for once they finish their classes that they can show their outcomes, the outcomes of their work and their studies in the art field. So, let's see. So another question here, there was a bunch of them. Does the college have any goals or objectives to diversify faculty and staff on campus to align more with our student population? This is something that has been brought up quite often in the last 4 months that I've been here, that we are out of sync in terms of the population that comprises our student demographics with our, particularly our faculty demographics. So this is something that will require actually setting some goals, some measurable goals, and working very diligently during the recruitment process. And there's some creative things that we can do. What I've seen done, coming from Minnesota, you know, that is not as diverse as New Mexico for sure. But I was very proud of one of the programs that actually had some graduates that did represent diverse groups. We have students from Somalia, Liberia, you know, and other African countries. And so we had an outstanding graduate in nursing. And so she came back. She actually worked in the field, and then she came back, and she happened to be an African student, came back to, bless you, to work in our lab, you know, to begin training for how she could become a faculty member. And I believe also we were hiring clinical faculty members, you know, that were from minority groups as a start, you know, in terms of diversifying our faculty and having more diversity in terms of the interaction that students had, you know, because they interact with the patients that come from diverse groups, and so they should have some instructors. So we need to do a lot. I know that's a huge task that we have before us, and but I think we have to start setting goals, and I don't know that we have any goals in terms of annual goals that we can reach, work to reach, and come up with some homegrown approaches of how we can diversify our faculty, particularly our faculty. So that would be how I would approach it. And, you know, it's going to take more of us to actually put together the plan. But it's desperately needed in order to better support our students and to better have role models for them from across the spectrum in the community, just as they represent different parts of the community. So another question is, how is the college reaching out to communities with social economic disparity? For example, at-risk populations of 18 to 30-year-olds and tribal communities. Well, just in the short time that I've been here, I see that, you know, there is an effort to do outreach and to bring in students from diverse communities, the tribal communities. I know that you know, the partnerships with with the tribal communities are very important, and I think actually Marvin isn't here right now, but him and Brooke Gondara are heading up our, and Megan is also our Native American Student Club. And we're going to have Native American Week coming up, and we're going to have some of our tribal chiefs here for, I believe it's, and Deborah's not here, but isn't there going to be a signing with our, yeah, there's supposed to be a signing during that, where again, we can better partner and better support. And, you know, Kyle is from, that just got this Shandero to Serve Far West Regional Award. He won it. I mean, he competed and got the #1 chef, but he is from Santo Domingo Pueblo. And I mean, he's got 5 brothers. There's 5 brothers, no sisters, all brothers. And him and Mrs. and Mr. Pacheco, this college has done such wonderful things. But we need to expand that. You know, we have to have a lot more Kyle Pachecos here, and the sisters or cousins of Kyle also to come. So. I mean, when they come, they do great. We just have to get them here, and I know that recruiting is working on that, and we have to do more. I don't have a solution right now, but it's establishing those relationships and doing more of what we're already doing, and using some of our students who are already successful and helping us, I think, to recruit more from their pueblos and from their communities. Also, what I mentioned about the workforce solutions, I think, is another way that we can bring in at-risk populations that are unemployed or underemployed, to see that the college offers them wonderful options in order to prepare for jobs and careers. And let me see, the last thing is, how can you as the interim president address cultural competency issues on campus? Well, I think we have to do more in terms of our professional development offerings that address in a systematic manner cultural competency. I don't know what we've done. I have not really explored that. But we were talking about, you know, the professional development resources that we have need to do more at addressing some of the needs that we have within the college, the faculty and staff. So that's something that we're going to be working on with our professional development office, because we have the resources. We just have to be more strategic and systematic in utilizing them in order to address some of these needs that are very, very important. And you know, I was just thinking as I was walking over here that maybe utilizing some of our staff, you know, to assist us with that process, to convey, you know, how they feel as either immigrants or as members from diverse communities, and how it feels, you know, because sometimes when it's personal like that, it means so much more. So, I mean, some people are shy, but they tell me Kyle was shy, and he's not shy anymore. So we can work with them to help convey their message. What are your plans for FCC during your tenure? Take a nap. No, not really. I don't take naps. Maybe after today. No, I don't take naps, except maybe on the weekends. But I'm busy. I'm really busy, but I love it. And you all are great, and I appreciate all that you do. And thank you for supporting me and for giving me my marching orders. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What else here? Well, another question that came in has to do with concerns about performance at maybe supervisory levels. And my suggestion to you is that it's best to speak with the person's supervisor if you have concerns. You know, that's where something can be addressed. That's where a change can occur, you know, because the supervisor has to have feedback. Now, speaking of that, I think maybe I kept thinking about this question that, you know, there have been requests about, you know, how are we going to go about is it a 360 evaluation? And, you know, we need to have those conversations as to how we can conduct those in a manner that's equitable and that's fair, and it isn't just for a person to dump. You know, we don't want dumping. The reason we do appraisals is to improve, okay, at every single level. That's why we do appraisals, for the employee to improve and do his or her job more effectively. And if he or she doesn't know, then the feedback is positive. As a matter of fact, that's going to be one of the topics on our professional development day, is how to give feedback. I was telling the executive team that I think feedback is very valuable, and we shouldn't get paranoid or defensive when we're given feedback, because it's a gift. It's a gift so that how other people see us and how we can improve. So again, I would really like to move in that direction so that we embrace assessment and feedback as a positive so that we can improve in serving each other, serving our students, and meeting the college's mission. Empower students, strengthen community, empoderar a los estudiantes, fortalecer a la comunidad. You know, I love our mission. So, oh my gosh, 2 o'clock. Any last question that anybody has? Okay, thank you so much. It's great to see you, and we'll see you on the 16th for the drill. Thank you.